Hi Tarot family, this is Storm Jewel. Welcome to my channel. It's lovely to have you here, and today we're going to find out a bit about your future in the coming weeks and months, and we're going to look a bit about your love life, your work or school life, and your family and friends life as well. And I'll give you a little bit of advice to make the most of this future, and if we see anything that isn't ideal, then I'll look for the ways to make it better. And if we see things that are great, then we'll just look at how to maximize that. Okay, so to start off, what I'm going to do is draw a few cards, and then you can see which one represents, this is for your present at the moment, so you can actually see which one reflects more closely the situation, the energy of the situation that you feel you're in now, and you can choose with that and also with your intuition, whatever you like. Okay, so that's group one. Now for group two. Okay. Forest, breath. So we've got tsunami and we've got forest. Let's see what we get next for group three. Okay. As always, whenever I'm just to look at a couple of cards just before it starts, I always see one that I think, I bet that one's going to come up. I hardly ever draw the childhood innocence card, and I just used it when I was testing the lights, and I was like, that one never comes up. And of course now it comes up. How synchronicitous. Okay, and finally pile four. Lovely. Okay, and maybe just to get a little bit more clarity, we'll also draw one card from the tarot deck as well. Okay, so tell us more about the tsunami. Okay, tell us more about the forest, please. Tell us more about childhood and innocence. Okay, very fitting. Tell us more about the shaman and the ancient healing wisdom. Okay, so for group one, what we see is this will be quite a turbulent time for you. It may not necessarily be bad, but it's the kind of time where things are feeling quite intense. There's a lot of changes going on. Maybe they're all welcome, but maybe you're just like, wow, can it slow down a little bit, or what's going on? Why is so much happening? And that's the tsunami card. And here we see the Queen of Cups in conjunction, so it's either something to do with love, or it can be to do with your well-being, nurturing yourself. It might be a project that you've really put in a lot of effort in, so there might be a lot of things going on with that. Yeah, either somebody or something that you really love and care about to a deep degree, or something to do with well-being. So if you've been suffering from a lack of well-being, or you've been trying to focus on well-being, this would be a good card, and a good pile for you to pick. We're going to symbolize that with this very snazzy black and white shell there. Bit kind of houndstooth pattern, very cool 1960s look in my opinion. So here then for pile 2, for group 2, we have the Forest, Breath, and we have the Nine of Wands. So this suggests that maybe you've been feeling a little bit on the defensive, having to look out for things. Maybe there's been a few knockbacks, maybe you felt a bit rushed or out of breath, or possibly you've been doing breath work. It's also possible. The Forest card is usually telling us, well, it's often telling us that we need to take a deep breath. And this person here, you know, he's been through some things and he's watchful, but he may not have stopped to do a bit of meditating or whatever. So if any of that resonates with you, then we will suggest that you try group 2, and we'll have this nice little cool stripy shell. And for pile 3, childhood, innocence, and Page of Swords, I feel that this is a time when you've been exploring playfulness and maybe trying out new things, maybe returning to something from your youth, maybe getting involved in a lot of things, kind of trying out different things. Maybe there's this kind of sense of, who do I want to be in the future? Hopefully there hasn't been too much pressure upon you, but it could be the case that you've been really worrying, well, what's the right path? There's so many things I could do, but what should I do? So if any of that resonates for you, then I would say let's choose childhood innocence, and we're going to take this cool flamboyant shell to represent pile 3. And finally for pile 4, we have Shaman, Ancient Healing Wisdom, and the Queen of Wands. So if you've been getting involved in trying to heal yourself, or it doesn't have to be with a shaman, but it might be, maybe you've started some kind of new healing hobby that has an old tradition. It could be yoga, it could be qigong, whatever rings true. Or perhaps you've actually been thinking about things like this to explore it as a life path for you. Perhaps you're looking into herbs, perhaps you've even have met with a shaman and been traveling or been thinking about that. And I think whatever's been going on for you, it's been a time of socializing, it's been a time of meeting people. So this is a journey that I feel like you're sharing with other people in one way or another. And so to represent that, we will have this cool little spiral shell here. So I'll put the timestamps down below. If you do feel drawn to more than one of these piles, then feel free to watch them and kind of synthesize and make your own reading from everything that you hear. And yeah, thanks again for joining me. And once again, please, 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 if you like it, subscribe and press the bell icon, and maybe leave me a comment would be awesome. Okay, see you soon.
Welcome group 2. So I often like to draw the cards in advance because I do really like to concentrate while I'm dealing the cards, just to make sure that I'm tuning in correctly. That said, I do also prepare myself and the cards in advance by meditation and by pre-shuffling the cards. So I'm going to try and do this one live and see how it turns out. What we'll do is we'll look at your future in the coming weeks and months. I'm not going to put an exact time frame on it, as timing is difficult with the tarot, but we will get a sense. But you can also think to yourself that this would be around about the next 6 months as a rough guide, though it may manifest for you slightly differently. Okay, so let's start out with love. The Hierophant. And the Queen of Pentacles. Great. Just going to do a bit of card arranging there. Let's see what else we can get. The Six of Wands. That's a lovely card to see. Talking of successes and wins and definite positive vibes. So let's just find out a bit more about the Queen of Pentacles. We get the King of Pentacles. Wow. So this could be a real power couple situation. This is a powerful pair to see. Let's just get a little bit more about the Hierophant. So we have the Six of Swords, with sixes going on here. So there's definitely changes coming for the better. I just get addicted to pulling the cards, and this could really go on forever. Maybe this should just be a love life reading, but let's see. Okay, we join the Nine of Cups for your challenges, and now we're going to get your blessings. The Chariot, another card of success, really fantastic. And a lot of yellow cards here, so you can see there's a lot of wisdom. So what I see here is what I've mentioned before. You've been going through a difficult time, or at least an intense time, and it's possible that you've even broken up with someone recently or lost someone you love in a way that was unexpected. The good news then is it looks like this is going to be a really positive time for your love life. And in the coming weeks, we see the Queen of Pentacles clarified by the King. If you're in a relationship, then this is a really good sign that things are progressing well. Pentacles is the suit of home life, abundance, security, and it can even relate to a good sex life as well. And for me, I feel one of the reasons for that is that Pentacles is the root chakra. And without a strong root chakra, it's hard to have a solid relationship and even potentially a good sexual relationship. You definitely can have one without this security, but the quality of it is not going to be the same. You're going to run into more difficulties, insecurities. So this is just a really great card pair to see here. And ultimately, I think if you're in a relationship, this is going to be a fantastic time for your relationship. If it isn't already solid, then it's going to be becoming more solid. Any challenges that you've had going on are now bringing you closer together. If you're single, then I think that there's a very good chance you're going to meet someone in the weeks to come. And that person is likely to be on a very similar train of thought to you. Both of you have a very grounded and practical side to you, perhaps good with finances and making a safe, nurturing home life. It's a really strong and powerful energy. You have the ability to be grounded and go out there and achieve things in the world. And this could be a good relationship to start a family with in the future. And you might also feel that you would enjoy working on a business together, possibly something home-based. This is a really exciting card pair to see, so you can definitely expect good things coming in your way in your love life. And the Six of Wands is ideal to see, as it shows that you are going to be having these successes, and that's what you need to focus on to get you past this troubled time. And don't forget to be sending yourself a lot of self-love and compassion, though, as we can see from the Queen of Wands. You know, when we go through difficult times, this is the most important time for no self-judgment and instead to really work on nurturing ourselves. And where we see the Hierophant, this looks like you're going to be able to move through this difficult time that you've been going through, perhaps with the help of a kind of an elder, or it could be many things. Just something I wanted to point out is that it's in the next couple of months, you really are going to start processing any issues you've been going through. I think you may have already been processing them with good success at the moment, but I imagine that being a difficult time for you, and here we see the Six of Wands showing up and the Six of Swords rather, moving you away from troubled waters there. So thoughts that have been on your mind or stressing you out, or memories that have been unwelcome, they're going to be leaving now. And when we talk about the Hierophant, well, for some of you, that might look like going to see a counselor or a therapist. And for others of you, that might be joining some kind of spiritual or supportive group. And it also could be working through a self-directed self-help process, books or course, some other kind of set process where there's kind of clear potential outcomes and stages that you can measure. And just something that kind of comes to mind is, as an example, is for instance, Alcoholics Anonymous, given its 12-step program, and there's a kind of a spiritual element. Of course, that's not going to relate to many of you, but it's something, it's quite orthodox in its methods, but it really does get the job done for many people. Although there is a certain religious aspect, and maybe you can just use your own self-love aspect as well to get you through those times. And of course, it doesn't have to be anything like that. It can be anything that works for you. It may even be a spiritual leader or a guru. And again, here it's just important to notice the Chariot that we see in success. So we really see a kind of progression here from the troubled times to kind of more temporary successes from the Six of Wands, which are very important, things that can be celebrated. And then, we get to the Chariot, which is like real success in the world. This is solidifying and crystallizing the process. So it's really cool to see that there. And just in relation to the Hierophant, it may be a spiritual leader or a guru even, although I'm nervous of that word. But I know a lot of people that have had gurus that they really respect. But just something like that is the one who can potentially move you to the Chariot. Somebody trusted in your community even. And whether you're in a relationship or not, this is going to help you move through this difficult time to the success we see of the Six of Wands here, and a feeling of new inspiration to really get past any blockages. And here we see your challenges card is the Nine of Cups. And so what you need to be thinking about is, do you have everything the way you want it? What hidden talents have you got that you haven't been expressing, that you could be giving more love to? What can you make more use of? How can you do it in a way that feels fulfilling? These would be some really great questions to ask yourself at the moment. And in terms of your blessings, again, as I've said, all of this is a really great sign for success, especially when mixed with the Six of Wands. So act like you've got the success. I know it sounds cheesy, but fake it till you make it. Go around as if you're living your best life or your best relationship, whether you're in one or not. Acknowledge what you've been through, of course, but just think, yeah, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to get to this success point. And if you don't know the answers to those questions, maybe just spend a bit of time journaling. And in terms of your challenges, it does make sense to see the Nine of Cups, because this is somebody who, they almost have it all and they're able to show it off to the world. And yet there's a sense of, well, what is behind the curtain? Is there something hidden there? And so when we talk about what's hidden behind the curtain, it's this difficult time you've been going through and that you have had to move past. And you may think to yourself, well, I don't have all the things I want. How can I go around looking victorious when there's all these skeletons in the cupboard? But just remember, that's normal. Seriously, even the most secure seeming person has probably got all these paranoias that you wouldn't even dream about. So what I'm going to do next is meld the friendships, social life and work life into one. Let's see how that goes. So what is going to happen in the next few weeks, either your work or school or social life or family? Let's see what the tarot has for us. Okay, so we have the Five of Wands and we have Justice reversed. And I'm going to draw a few clarifier cards. Here we have the Eight of Swords, and we get the Four of Pentacles. And I'll draw some cards of advice as well. Let's see what we get. Okay, the Two of Swords. And the Empress. Fantastic. And finally then, I'll draw one more card. It's going to be a message from Spirit about the whole thing. And we can see it's the Four of Swords. So in the coming weeks, I think that there might be a kind of a challenge in your work or your personal or family life. But like anything, you have the ability to get through it, to navigate your way through difficult situations and to come out stronger for it. And really, I would say that the Four is here to show us that. So my feeling is that in the next few weeks, you may find that things aren't flowing as smoothly as you would like them to, aside from love, especially when it comes to other people. And when we take a look at the Five of Wands here, what we see is people in different clothes. They're standing on bumpy ground. Are they fighting? Are they dancing? They are trying. They are trying to do something, trying to take inspiration and ideas and put it into something more tangible. And when we do see the clarifier card, the Eight of Swords, it can be a sign that sometimes we just feel a little bit trapped. That, you know, it's one of those moments that whatever you do, you can't really win through. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. That can be the kind of feeling from this card, but doesn't actually have to be the reality. So bear that in mind. Things are not always as they seem. And we see in this Five of Wands that they're actually trying to form a pentacle, something more secure and solid. At least that's what I see. But it can be difficult, and I feel that you might be dealing with people from different ways of life, different backgrounds. And the best thing to do, really, especially when we see the Nine of Swords, I would say is that rather than trying to fight your cause, and also especially when we see the Empress as well, I think it's about waiting. It's about trying to put judgments aside. Now, I have wondered a lot in the past what people mean when they say things like that. Obviously, it's good to be non-judgmental, but when you're talking about no judgments, well, that gets confusing because sometimes we need to judge if someone is a good person to be around. And there is definitely a time for judgment in terms of checking our safety. But there is another side to judgment, and that's when we prejudge someone. For instance, when you meet someone that you just don't gel with, maybe you wonder, what the hell are they talking about? And you find them irritating, perhaps. And maybe other people are like, oh, that person sucks. And then you think to yourself, well, I'm just going to close myself off to that other person. But then later on, you find out that others did bother to get to know them better and are now having a nice time with them, and you're missing out. And I know this because it has happened to me in the past. and pretty much everybody in this world has something to contribute to our understanding or our well-being in some way. Of course, there may be exceptions, but in this case, you are being asked to just observe, really listen and try, obviously still listen to your intuition. Don't put judgment aside in the sense that you're being unsafe. Or, of course, if someone is being toxic, take notice of that, but don't react to your first judgment. Just be silent and see if you can, maybe share your opinion, but it might get listened to. It's okay to say a few things, but you'll really benefit most by trying to absorb the knowledge of the group, because the likelihood is, whether this is in relation to work, we see this kind of blindfolded thing going on with the Two of Swords. It's kind of unclear. Keep your mouth shut, maybe. And whether it's in work or family or another situation, there's going to be people who think differently to you, but they are going to have something interesting to tell you. Now, on the other hand, I would say don't jump into anything kind of rashly. And if you're thinking of getting involved with a business idea or something, it might be better to just wait and see what transpires, because there might be something that you don't know yet, and it's just not really a great time for action. And as much as I've said all of that about non-judgment, I have also said that you must look out for yourself. And we see the reversed justice card. I don't often read with reverse cards, but when they occasionally do come up, I read them. And so with the justice reversed, there are two ways we can interpret this. Firstly, it might be about legal matters or something like that.
We'll give you information on how to avoid or combat that. And the other kind of interpretations could be a sort of a rigidity or an inability to find balance, to make the adjustments that you need. That might be being imposed on you by someone else, or it might be coming from you. And here we see it's in connection with the Four of Pentacles. So, as I said, being as Pentacles are to do with work, home life, things in the material realm, I would say definitely, in the weeks to come, see what wisdom people have to offer you, but maybe don't launch into anything. Wait, bide your time, because there is a chance that if you kind of overly trust someone in this period, they might not turn out to have your best interests at heart, and you might have problems with this isn't really a good time to be making contracts or any important financial matters. And if you have no choice about that kind of thing, make sure you get everything double checked. If you're starting a new job, make sure you do ask for and read your contract and everything is clear. If you're doing any legal or other matters, again, get a lawyer to check it out if necessary. Just make sure that everything is as it should. If you're thinking about making any investments, this isn't financial advice, but just again, be careful, check everything out. Now, if none of that resonates, then it could be something to do with a more internal process where you are needing to make adjustments in your life to progress to the next stage. And if that is the case, then what this card, the Four of Pentacles here, would be talking about is clinging on to things. Like, as you can see, he's really like hanging on to them pentacles, and it can be, a sign of insecurity, of not wanting to let go of control, of possessiveness. Now, this isn't in relation to love, but if that applies to any of your other areas of life with interpersonal stuff, it might be that you need to let go a bit. Also, this card it can just be to do with worries about money, fears of money or time, possessiveness, whether it's money or whether it's something else. And if that's the case, then the Empress here that we see really makes sense because she's a sign of abundance. So the Empress doesn't worry about, you know, if the corn is going to grow, or are the trees going to bloom and blossom, and will the river flow, because she knows that it will. She knows that abundance follows her wherever she goes. So in the context of advice, and again, if it's more to do with legal matters, practical things, it's really about taking time to connect to your intuition, recognizing your inner sense of abundance. And here we saw some advice. Now, it was tailored towards your love life, but oh, it's running away there. One way that you can channel the Six of Wands energy is by positive affirmations. So it's often like the things that you want, but stated as if they've already happened. Don't pick something that's super far away from what the truth is for you now, because that will just feel inauthentic when you do it. And you'll know if you've picked something too ambitious, it just won't sit right in your body. But if it's something, you know, close to where you are, like, you know, I feel confident about myself, rather than, you know, I'm the best person in the world ever. Just as a kind of silly example, maybe you are close to that, and well, maybe be careful if you think that, but still, yeah, that's the kind of positive attitude that the Empress is asking you to embody, you know, this kind of belief in your own creative potential and the ability to grow things, this trust in yourself. And so I would say, yeah, really trying to understand what's going on here. If you need to make adjustments, then, you know, going out and spending time in the nature, really just touch some soil. I know that sounds weird, or, you know, sand, if that's what you've got near you. Spend a few moments every day, like looking at the birds, looking at the leaves, watching the flying of the birds in the sky. That's really good for your eyesight, by the way. Random tip from an ophthalmologist, Andrew Huberman. Especially if you do a lot of work on computer, if you can go outside and just look in the distance for a while, can actually help you, prevent you from having to wear glasses later on in life, or stop your eyesight from deteriorating. Anyway, I digress a little bit. But yeah, it's really just trying to embody this abundant mindset, this knowledge that you can really give birth to whatever thing that it is, whether it's in your work life or your financial life or your interpersonal life. And, you know, if it's to do with feeling possessive over people, then again, we're looking back to this kind of embodying, you know, with these affirmations, really just embodying this sense of you don't need to be possessive because you have it all. And if it's more to do with issues of actually, like, has there been an injustice, then it's time to consult yourself, you know, go into the nature, spend time around water perhaps, and then really just take the time to look inwards and see, like, you know, think about a certain person that's worrying you, or a situation, and where do you feel the sensations in your body, things like that. If none of that's working for you, then you can also consult somebody who represents this kind of energy in your life. And that all makes sense with your overall advice from Spirit. We have the Four of Swords here, and definitely this is a card of contemplation. So it really goes along with what we've seen here about not rushing into things. I think as far as your love life is concerned, everything's kind of all go there. Although even there, you know, with this, whatever this wake-up call is that you've been through, and this kind of sorrows or troubled times that you're moving away from, there is a time to meditate or to consider your problems or your issues or whatever it is. Don't this isn't the time to run forward or to just trust everyone blindly. It's a time to take a little bit of time for yourself, or at least it will be, and just keep checking in, you know, maybe see if you can develop some kind of meditation practice. It doesn't have to just mean lying down with closed eyes. I know not everybody's good at it, I'm not. So I use guided meditations, or I also do Qigong. As you will know if you've been watching my channel, I always also use Focusing by Eugene Gendlin, which has just been amazing for me. And again, taking a walk in nature, any time where you just spend a little bit of time, try to put your concerns to one side and just see what's going on in your body, see what's your intuition trying to tell you. And that's going to guide you through any issues that you may see here, and it's also going to help you really enjoy this fun time that we see, this really fulfilling time for your love life where we see such a lot of success. And I think finally we'll just draw one more card, another oracle card, just to see what is the message for the kind of energy of the time that you're going into. Okay, so volcano volatility. So I think this, again, it's more relating to the other side of your life. Yeah, you know, it's first you have a tsunami, then you have a volcano. Sometimes, you know, life can be a bit dramatic, and you know, we may think, why is this happening to me? And sometimes there's no answer for that other than it's just the way it has to be. You know, life is kind of a cyclical process, and you know, if it was straight all the time, probably would be quite boring and there wouldn't be any inner growth. So I think this is to do with people around you, the situations around you. You know, we saw this, you know, Five of Wands, the people, what are they doing, you know, and like, why have we got justice reversed and stuff like that? It's going to be, you know, people are going to be a little bit unpredictable in this time, apart from in your love life. And again, that's why we see, you know, the advice of, you don't have to act, you know, even if maybe somebody's putting pressure on you to take a decision, you can just tell them that you need more time and find a way. Don't be pressured into anything, and expect that there is going to be a lot of changes, but you can just kind of wait it out. And you know, by going inside yourself, as we see from the Four of Swords here, you can really have a rest if this volatility gets kind of a bit much around you. You know, everything might be crazy around you or changing a lot, but if you can develop this kind of calm core where your thoughts are, you know, you have a space where it's not all about thinking, then I think you're going to manage just fine, you know. And just remember that you are the Empress, and you can be, and really embody that energy, this kind of powerful Mother Nature type energy. Think of it that way. You know, there's cycles in nature, things are dying, being reborn. You know, it's a volatile world out there, but without it we wouldn't have the beauty that we have. So I hope that makes sense. Thanks so much for watching this reading, and please do comment and let me know what pile you chose. I'd love to read and find out. And if you like the video, as always, I'd ask you to consider subscribing and give me a like. That will really help me to make more videos. And if you want to contact me directly, you can do so via my website, or also I will try to reply to comments below. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Lots of love and light to you. Okay, so I've decided to do the drawing of the cards live because that's what I felt called to do. I do like to take a bit of time to focus in generally and connect, but I did quite a lot of meditation beforehand, and I'm just called to do it this way. Unfortunately, I didn't press the record button, so I've already drawn the first two cards. That's for the weeks in your love life coming up, and this is the months. And I'm going to draw a card of advice. Okay, and now let's get a little bit more info about the Seven of Pentacles. And let's see, a clarifier card on the Page of Pentacles. And let's also find out a little bit about your challenges and your blessings. Oh wow, okay. Interesting, interesting. Right, so as I said previously, the current time in general has probably been a little bit difficult for you, and I think you're holding up well. I think you're doing a great job, but still, maybe you're feeling a little bit defensive. Maybe things have been a little bit intense. There's been a lot to keep up with. Maybe there's been a lot going on in your mind, or other people's influences have felt kind of intense or intrusive in some way. And if you haven't been doing some kind of breath work, I mean, even right now, I'll invite you to take a deep breath with me. I always love to take a deep breath. So when I remind people, I do it myself. So really feels so good. Years ago when I did a mindfulness course, and the teacher was really trying to emphasize why breath was so important, I just thought, what's she talking about? Why would I think about this thing that I just do anyway? But it became apparent to me over time the power of really using the breath. And yeah, just 3 deep breaths when you're in a difficult situation can really be the difference between kind of losing control and gaining back a sense of self. So hopefully that's something that you'll be taking in mind to get through this difficult energy at the moment. And if not, you now have the chance to do so. And of course, if you can walk among trees and do so, even better. The idea is that the forest really is representing the breath, in the sense that carbon dioxide is taken in and oxygen is given out. So we're like the perfect complement to the forest in that way. Anyway, so when we look at your love life for the next few weeks or so, we see that you've been putting a lot of effort into something. Now, if you're in a relationship, or well, whether you're in a relationship or not, it could be that you've been putting a lot of effort into yourself and trying to become a more secure person, you know, somebody who's just better adapted to be in a relationship. Although my feeling, and that may well be true for many of you, but I have this kind of feeling that it's actually something else that you've been putting effort into. It might be that, but I think for a lot of you, perhaps you've been putting effort into study or work life, or some kind of project that takes a long time. And I think that you are starting, or you will, if you haven't already, then you will start to be seeing the benefits of that. But I think that there's a part of you that feels conflicted, like maybe it's just taking too long, maybe it's just taking too much of your energy away from finding love or from being present for your partner if you're already in a relationship. Maybe if you're in a relationship, it's actually been the source of some conflict as well. You know, we can see here the Knight of Wands, he wants to rush forward, and he can be a bit of a troublemaker, so he could represent a bit of troubled energy coming through. Now I've drawn a card of overall advice, and I will refer to that shortly, but let's just see if we can get something specific for this card pair, just to make these coming weeks flow a little bit smoother for you. Okay, so really I think the advice here is just to really congratulate yourself, actually. You know, if somebody is giving you trouble about it, well, you know, maybe that's their problem, because this is a great card to see. There's a real plan in place. There's a sense of progress. You know, you are going in the right direction. And I think that's the main advice, is just to, you know, if you're feeling worn out, if you're feeling tired, just know that you're going to break through pretty soon. Actually, it's interesting that we see so many pentacle cards here. So I feel that there's a lot of security coming in. These are, you know, pentacles are really the basis of what we want to see for relationships. You know, yes, we've got cups, which are emotions and love. We've got wands, which are, you know, quite phallic, how else to say, passionate, the passion of the wands, you know, the swords, exchanging of ideas. But the pentacles, if we don't have pentacles, then we don't have security in the root chakra, or possibly in the material world. Sometimes it's a lot of stress for a relationship if you don't have enough money. So whatever you've been doing, I would say keep on going. Yes, you might feel a little bit tired. You might be facing some you know, conflicting thoughts, or I don't know, people conflicting with you, but you're doing the right thing. You're on the path that you need to be on, and it's gonna bear fruit in terms of your relationship status, whether you're single or not. Now, in the months to come, there is a good chance that you're going to meet somebody if you're single, and if so, this is represented by the Page of Pentacles, and this is someone who's really fun to be around. They might be a little bit younger than you, or they might have a really youthful energy. They're someone who really looks with interest into the future. You know, they've got all these ideas of things they might want to do. You know, maybe they want to start up a permaculture farm, or, you know, they want to change the world even. You know, I think they're still at the planning stage, but you know, the permaculture comes to mind because there's a sort of a gardening component to the Page of Pentacles. So they may really like gardening, or be involved in some kind of work with nature. Perhaps they do landscape gardening, tree surgery, but maybe not. It also could be that they're interested in nature. They want to build some kind of nature eco foundation, or it may not be to do with nature, but this is a person who is really full of possibilities for the future. And yes, at this stage they may be more thinking about it, but you know, they're a dreamer now, but they're looking about how they can take things into the practical. Astrologically speaking, they may well be an earth sign. And this is just someone really interesting to be with, and you know, it really seems to fit what's going on with you, with your own kind of pentacle journey. And if you're already in a relationship, then I think it's about the two of you coming together and making plans for your future, and seeing, you know, what can you build together tangibly? Where would you like to end up? You know, what's next? And yellow is the card of wisdom. So again, interesting that we see so many yellow cards there. And this is a clarifier, just shows that whether this is a new relationship or whether it's an existing one, this phase that you're going into in the coming months is really going to bring you a lot of inner strength, both of you. It's going to allow you to be vulnerable and strong at the same time, and just really building upon where you are. So that's a really great card to see there. And for your overall advice, we get this card. So this is really generally the card of friendship and celebrating your love for your friends. So if for example, whether you're in a relationship or not, it's always good to remember that your friends are there and you can, celebrate with them, feel love with them. If you are single, then this could be a really good way to meet someone by doing social events with your friends. It's maybe somebody that is a friend of your friend, or you go out and you meet them. So definitely getting out and being social is going to help you, get out of the doldrums that perhaps that we're seeing there, and you've been working hard. You deserve a bit of time to kind of like let your hair down and have fun and kind of just be happy and be merry with your friends.
Now, it's interesting to see your challenges and blessings here, because on the one hand, for your challenges, we see there is a potential for conflict. And this maybe echoes what we saw here in the Knight of Swords. And on the other hand, for your blessings, we see the Two of Cups very harmonious, where people are getting on amazingly, unlike this card. And the thing to note about the Five of Swords is that you don't actually have to fight if you don't want to. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little line between the water and the people, which means in the Rider-Waite deck anyway, that this is a stage card. So it's a way of saying that not everything is as it seems. On the first glance, we see what looks to be the aftermath of a fight. There are swords strewn on the floor, someone looks as if they're crying, someone is staring out to sea, and then there's our main guy with an intriguing expression on his face. But maybe what's really happening is that a fight has been avoided, or someone is being a mediator. Maybe the two figures on the card have just decided they've had enough of Mr. Angry Guy's behaviour and have made a pact to just leave him to collect his swords and say mean words and just ignore him, which is sometimes the best thing to do with a difficult person. And maybe this was not a real fight, but just a competition, a battle of wills and words, maybe even an MC battle or something. Probably not in this case as your challenges, but just to give you an idea of the things it can mean. So the advice here would be that if you find yourself in some kind of a conflict situation, you do have the choice to walk away or to mediate or to ignore. And if you find that you are the one who is wanting to argue or fight, then maybe perhaps you can refer back to the Forest card. Take a breath, step outside, see things differently from another's point of view. Sometimes it really is worth just walking away from things instead of working yourself up. And other times you may find that you actually do need to stand up for yourself. Now, for your Strengths card, we see the Two of Cups, which is a real blessing. And again, it gives us a clue on how to deal with the more aggressive Five of Swords. Especially for those of you looking for a romantic relationship, this is the perfect card to see, because you're really going to be in alignment with the right kind of romantic energy. And it's a reminder that there is somebody out there, presumably our Page of Swords, with whom you can really bond with and have an amazing, loving and healing connection. This card is usually about the beginning of relationships, and we can see these like shaded kind of place for which something can be made to grow. It's kind of angel above. But it can also be the beginning of a new improved phase in your relationship where you can choose to become closer, perhaps even getting married or engaged or exchanging some kind of vows or commitments to each other. So a real difference in what we see from the Five of Swords. And it can also be the ability for a good partnership in love or work or even family, or for really understanding what another person is needing and wanting. Maybe it relates to your challenges card, and if you're able to mediate well or deal with the conflict, then you can actually end up making a really great connection. And as it's in the advice position, it's really asking you to seek out the softer side of yourself, the part of you that feels really fulfilled, whether it's from a person or something you choose to do with your life. Do everything you can to follow and promote positive connections and avoid the negative people that we see in your challenges, the 5.
Okay, so I had to pause the camera there because Canva, which is an amazing tool to make social content, doesn't like videos that are too big, and so I thought that was a good time to pause the video. And yet again, I turned the camera back on and I didn't press record, so I did draw these cards live, you just didn't see it. So now we're going to draw a clarification card. Luckily the camera turns itself off, otherwise I could be sitting here for half an hour reading to myself, which would be quite annoying. So, Page of Cups for the weeks to come. Let's just get some clarification on that. And, oh, okay. 8 of Swords. I think we'll put that there. We'll see if that's relevant. It might be. Did kind of leap out at the deck, didn't it? Okay, so quite a few 8s there. I think let's draw a little card of advice. Okay, and then we'll finally draw one more card of overall advice. Okay, just throwing cards on the floor. Let's put that there. Okay, that's a nice card to see. I'm just going to move that up there. So many cards, so little space. Okay, so how's that looking? There we go. You can go up there. You can go there. Okay, it's not quite straight, is it? But never mind. So, in the weeks to come, we see that the Page of Cups is coming up. So, we're thinking about your work life or perhaps your interpersonal life with your friends, things like that. So yeah, either work or social, or if you're studying. And I think you're going to be a little bit caught off guard in the weeks to come, and there's just going to be a lot of surprises. I don't think that they're all going to be negative surprises, but I think it's just really not what you're expecting. You've been laying out a plan and just all these things keep happening. And while I don't think they're necessarily bad, it's like, have you ever noticed that when you've decided on a plan, things have been running in a particular way, and then you're like, right, I'm leaving the city, or I'm changing jobs, or whatever it is, and then suddenly you meet some really interesting people that you've been wishing that you could have met for ages, or, you know, your boss is like, oh, do you want a raise, or something like that. So it's kind of like sometimes when you want to make a change, it's as if life doesn't want to let you go from where you are. And that's what I feel that the Page of Cups is saying, that there's just going to be unexpected things come into light, and maybe there's also going to be a feeling of like a certain person that you don't know if they're being totally genuine with you as well, because we do see that there's some worries connected with this card, the 9 of Swords here. Now, yeah, usually the thing to know about this card, and especially when we see it with the Page, which is not, you know, say it's not a bad card, it's just a card of surprising things and things you're not used to. And for whatever reason, I think this throws you off balance a little bit, and it makes you a bit worried. You know, maybe it's other changes that are coming up and you don't know what the significance of them is. You know, perhaps it's that you're not trying to change anything, but things are changing anyway, and you're thinking, well, what does this mean? You know, perhaps there's been a suggestion of a reshuffle at work or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, is it going to be me? Or, you know, can I cope with these new changes that are coming up? Perhaps you had a system that was going on and it's kind of worrying you, but don't be worried. Try not to be. I laugh because it's obviously easy to say to someone, don't be worried. But when we see the card of advice or how to get through this, we get this wonderful major arcana card here, which is really the card of ultimate success. So it's about seeing these changes. You know, they may seem worrying, they may be putting you out of your comfort zone, but actually you need to go with the changes. Or, you know, if it's like things to do with a reshuffle, then just know that things are actually going to mainly go your way, and this is sort of like a great time to test out new things potentially. If new opportunities are being shown to you, there's a lot of success that you can experience. There's a lot of new things that the world can offer you, and you should really like take advantage of that in the coming weeks and see what you get. Now, I think there might be a little bit of this will be like a temporary period though, because after in the months to come, we do see you a little bit stuck here. Some people have described this card as a little bit like damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, it's sort of definitely a card of inaction. And it's interesting that we get the 8 of Wands as a clarifier. So that's 2 number 8 cards. So 8s are all about progress, movement, or in this case, the lack of. So I think that you're going to feel a little bit frustrated, either in your social life or your professional life. There's a sense, you know, there was you had this exploratory time, and I think that's really good, and we'll see why that is like going to be especially relevant actually. So yeah, I feel like you might get to a place of stagnation, you know, where, you know, you'd like to be like the Wands, moving quickly with direction, you know, traveling or starting new things, but instead you're like blindfolded and tied up and just trapped in a prison of your own thoughts or whatever, you know. But don't worry, because it doesn't need to be that way. It's actually an opportunity. And yeah, we see why there's an opportunity here, because when we see the 7 of Cups here in an advice position, it's really time to reevaluate what things mean to you. Because Cups are the sign of emotion, fulfillment, well-being, and it might be that either the friends that you have now, or the social situation, or the job that you're in, it's just not really speaking to your highest good anymore. The goals that you're pursuing, you know, perhaps they were great before, but you're just stuck now in that, and maybe that's because they don't suit you anymore. And I was noticing that, well, I've noticed it before, but I was pointing this out in a recent reading. You know, we see the skull here, and in connection with the victory wreath, and it's a sign that sometimes it's good to just let things die, you know, to let go of things, like metaphorically speaking, you know, and just to reassess, what is it that you're after? You know, are you know, would you like a new home or a new job, a new business? Are you after wealth? Are you after power and success? You know, are you after, would you like a spiritual path? Do you want to focus more on your relationships? Do you want to gain more wisdom? This is the advice here. So I think that this period in the coming weeks, if you're presented with opportunities, don't shy away, even if you feel out of your comfort zone. Instead, make the most of it. Go out into the world and seize life by the hands. And so when you move into this period where things feel a bit more stuck and frustrating, you'll be in a really good position to reevaluate what your priorities are, what is really important to you. And sometimes these can be some of the best times in your life, because, you know, it's only when you realize that you're not getting where you want to get, or that you can think, well, you know, actually, am I even on the right path? So many people just continue their life for years, decades even, without asking themselves this question, and then they end up having a midlife crisis or something like that, because they're like, oh my god, what was it all for, you know? So yeah, you don't have to deal with any of that, because you have this opportunity in the coming months to reassess everything and really shape life in the way that you want. And the Fool card jumped out here, and I would say that this is just a card that it's just to remind you that, like, sometimes when it all seems to just make no sense, that it is just worth trusting in the process. You know, have a trust in yourself, trust in the journey, and you know, definitely do think about where you're going. I mean, we can see the Fool's possibly about to walk off this path here, but that's what this card is all about. And so knowing that you're going to have all these opportunities and so on, you know, you can use that as an antidote to the sort of the worry that you might feel here. You know, just trusting that there is a kind of a plan going on behind this, or at least there's the opportunity for you to form your own plan. Why is that so off balance? And finally then, your advice here is the Six of Cups, and this could be about taking a trip to your hometown, or it could be something that evokes nostalgic feelings in you, something that reminds you of your youth. It could be reconnecting with an old friend, it could be reconnecting with an old hobby. Maybe you used to really like to paint, or, I mean, it could be anything, but something creative perhaps that you find fulfilling. This would be a really good time to connect with that, and, you know, I think take your mind off things sometimes, and also, you know, help you to explore the Page of Cups as well, and maybe help you to feel a bit more grounded, but in a kind of a fun way. I think you're going to get a reasonable amount of grounding from your relationship, given how many pentacles that we've seen, but this is kind of, you know, a light-hearted grounding, and you know, it's kind of will help you to feel like, yeah, I will take advantage of these, you know, new situations that I'm being faced with. So yeah, either a trip home, or to a place that feels familiar, or to something that feels familiar, or reconnect with a hobby that you loved. Or if none of that speaks to you, you could also consider some kind of voluntary work, or like helping out a neighbour, or something that makes you feel good, like that. You know, we see here that the figure is giving a kind of a bouquet of flowers to this lady here. So yeah, voluntary work, or some kind of good deed even, just to give you another thing to focus on, and that will really kind of nourish you and help you to navigate this process. And who knows, it may also be something that turns out to be quite important when, again, we see another cups here, the Seven of Cups. And it's interesting to note that, you know, 6, 7, there is a progression. So, you know, it's like once you've returned to the things that make you feel good, then you're in a good position to reassess, well, what are my goals going to be for the future? Like, what should I be focusing on? Am I on the right track? Is this what really makes me happy? So thanks very much for tuning in. Oh, I tell you what, before you go, we will draw one more card. Let's just get a nature oracle card to find out a bit more about the energy of the time that you are going into over the next weeks and months. Okay, this card has been coming up a lot. So this is a lovely card to see here, Rainbow and Blessings. So it really just goes along with everything that we've seen, you know. Of course, in life, there's always a few challenges to be met. But on the whole, it's almost like you are on a blessed path. There are sometimes, your blessings can be a little bit hidden, just as there's like clouds are needed to make a rainbow, and clouds kind of obscure things, but then behind the cloud comes this beautiful rainbow. So we can see you perhaps under a little bit of a cloud here, a little bit of a cloud here, and a cloud here, but then we see the blessings here, and the advice of the Six of Cups there, and this lovely relationship time. So definitely this feels like, sometimes it may be like hidden blessings. As I say, there's going to be a bit of rain, but then you're going to see why the rain had to come, and you're going to feel really blessed. And if you're having trouble along these sort of rain periods, then it's a really good time to perhaps count your blessings, and just spend a few moments thinking like, what am I really grateful for in my life? And just maybe it's a person, a thing, a memory, whatever it is, really evoke that feeling just for a few minutes every day. Science has shown that that's actually a super powerful thing. If you can do it for 21 days particularly, it doesn't have to be that, but that is a good period of time for making a new habit. So this will be a really good practice to keep you going in the next weeks, where there might be a tendency to feel a little bit worried, and then to see you through this, instead of feeling trapped, you can just move straight on to this reevaluation. So I think, this is a really fitting card to see. Some blessings are not always instantly available, but they're coming, and in your relationships definitely seems like a blessed time, and in your other life as well. So thanks so much for joining me. Please do comment below and tell me if you picked this pile and whether it resonates with you. And if you like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, like the video, all the good stuff. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can do so on my website, but I will also read every comment that's posted below. All right, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Welcome to group 3. So in the intro, I said that this pile might be relevant to you if you're kind of going through a phase of rediscovering your sense of innocence, or rather your sense of playfulness, going back to more childlike feelings of creativity, of exploring new ways. And there is another alternative which I didn't mention, so let's see if it becomes relevant. But this is also an opportunity to let go of any feelings of guilt or shame that you've had, and realizing that that isn't something that needs to be there anymore. And if that does relate to difficult things in your childhood, abuse, trauma, anything like that, then definitely the first thing I would recommend is, if you're looking to process this trauma, if perhaps you've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, or you feel that you may have that, this is a good opportunity to release this. Of course, if you're in that situation, hopefully you're already seeking out a counsellor or a therapist or someone like that. And if you've already done some work, then something you might like to reconsider, also for just even better really for non-complex PTSD, let's say, is EMDR, which is rapid eye movement therapy. Clearly that's not the way around that it goes, but if you search that, you'll find it. And the amazing thing about this, if you haven't heard of this technique, is that by following a certain pattern of eye movements while reliving a traumatic experience, you can actually reprogram your brain. And that might sound unbelievable or ridiculous if you've never heard of it, but there has been massive clinical trials into this and brain science studies of the why that it works and all that. I won't go into it, but if you are interested, there's a talk by Bessel van der Kolk who talks very much about this kind of thing, and how, you know, when he first heard about it, he thought it was ridiculous, but one of his patients who he'd been seeing for a long time, she wanted to do it. He said no. She went and did it anyway, which she was very grateful for, because he could see that she'd made massive strides, and it was because of this EMDR. So just something to think about if there's some deep sense of guilt or shame relating to an event or serious events that, you know, you need to let go of. That in a wider therapeutic context, this can be really powerful. Obviously, do get advice and consultation and blah blah blah. You know, don't just leap into it without checking that it's suitable for you, because it's not suitable for everyone. Anyway, assuming whichever it's that, or whether you're rediscovering your kind of playful side, which is the initial reading that I took from this, this is, there's definitely an exploration of childhood themes has been going on for you at the moment. So what we're going to do now is have a little look about what is coming into your love life in the next weeks to come, and then in the months to come. Okay, so I'm just going to take a moment to focus. That's the weeks to come, and let's see what we've got for the months to come. Oh wow, second time we've seen this card today. Very exciting. So far, everybody's having a good time in love in one way or another. So let's get some clarification cards as well. For the Two of Cups, okay, I don't think we need that one. What's the clarification card for the Two of Cups? Okay, Two of Swords. Interesting. And let's draw a card of advice. Oops. Yeah, so normally I do, so far I have been kind of picking the cards in advance, because I do sometimes like to go quite deep and take a little bit of time to think, and using the Lenormand system, which I'm not so familiar with also. But today I'm doing this more as if I was reading for a client, a live reading. So just felt intuitively right to do it this way. Okay. Okay, interesting, very interesting. And let's see, what is your challenges in the sphere of love? And let's see, what are your blessings? Okay, right, so in the weeks to come, there's definitely going to be a change for you, some kind of new start. And I think that if you are in a relationship that hasn't been working out, or if you've recently or you've come out of a relationship and you're still kind of hung up about it, I think that you're really going to start to move into a new phase where you really start to get over it, process it, deal with it. And that's a really good thing, as we can see from the Two of Cups, which is a wonderful card to see for lovers, or wannabe lovers. So yeah, if you're in a relationship that's not working out, now might be the time to cut that away. And if you're not sure about it, this card would perhaps be going to see a relationship counselor, or even if you're in a relationship that's having troubles and you do want it to survive, then going to a relationship counselor makes more sense, and there is a possibility to really turn things around, as we'll see. But yeah, a trusted member of your community, or somebody like that, or otherwise following certain set steps. So if it's the case that you're working on moving on from grief, then perhaps you're working through like a course, an online course, or a book, or something like that, something that has like homework, and this is you following the process, and it's working really well for you. If you do it, you're really cutting away from the past. And why I mention all of this, and it does seem interesting if this childhood card is also about releasing some troubles, because your advice here really is to let go of what is to grieve if you haven't grieved, because there's a therapy called emotion focused therapy by Leslie Greenberg, and he says you have to feel it in order to heal it. So if you've been repressing feelings of grief, then it's time to process it. And if you're going through feelings of grief, well, that's good because you're processing it. But the good thing to note is that, three cups are spilled, but two remain standing, and soon it's going to be water under the bridge. So really processing your grief, or, if it's the case that you're in a relationship, still, there might be grief to process. There might be hurts that you need to let go of, and perhaps it's the Hierophant that really helps you to do this. This could also be some kind of healer as well, or a spiritual teacher, or a community leader, or it could be yourself as well. You could be your own guru, your own shaman, whatever. But we do definitely see some kind of a new phase. If you're in a relationship and none of this really makes sense, everything's going fine, then what this really represents is the potential for a new era of communication between you guys. Maybe you're both like feeling really inspired about something, and it's really bringing you closer together. And this is just such a great time to be exchanging ideas, and perhaps building something together. Like this is the idea phase, the thinking about it, but also can be the taking action. It's the beginning of it, but there's definitely some kind of a shift, and it's exciting, it's inspiring. It's definitely the beginning of a new phase. And if you are single and it's not about processing feelings from your ex, then I would say that you're gonna perhaps be meeting people, and there's something new, something that I think you've just started doing, or at least you're just starting to do it in a group context. And again, you're going to have this really exciting interchange of ideas, and this potential, this really good time. And I think from that is probably how you're going to meet this person here, because this is the card of new relationships. So it's lovely to see in a relationship reading. And this card here shows us that it may well be someone that you already know, and you just didn't realize that that person was interested in you, or you were interested in them, and perhaps this intellectual stimulation that we see from the Ace of Swords, or this processing of old feelings, whatever it is, it really leads you to sort of see this person and be like, oh wow, yeah, this is the one I want to be with. And similarly, you know, maybe they're on a similar journey to you as well. So that's really exciting. There is a second possibility for those who are single, which is that it might be that there are two people to choose between. So just for fun, let's see if we can get an idea of who those two people might be. Okay, wow, all the twos. This is definitely, I'd be very surprised if you guys watching this are not in a relationship within the next few months. Just too many twos. I'm so excited, I'm just dropping all the cards. Okay, so on the one hand, if there are, just to return quickly to those people who are in a relationship, if you are in a relationship, then if you have been having troubles and you have put the work in and gone to see a relationship counsellor, or maybe you've read some good self-help books or consulted somebody or whatever, this is really an excellent time to renew your relationship in the coming months. You know, the work that you will have put in will have got you past this impasse that would be represented by the Two of Swords in that case. And it's just a real chance to remember like why you guys fell for each other in the first place, to reinitiate your love for each other, to take that kind of time of tenderness and, you know, look at each other in the eyes, just lie there staring at each other, and you know, promise to take care of each other, to try to really fulfill each other's needs and to do fun things together as well. Like, I think, you know, this is more of a prediction than advice, but you know, this is kind of the energy and the opportunity that you have. You know, date nights, things like that could be a great way to rekindle this feeling of you know, when you first got together, and really enjoy each other as you should. Now, if we go back to being single, on the one hand, we see the Nine of Pentacles. So this is somebody who's very secure, who is probably quite affluential. They've probably done well in their field of work or perhaps study. And I would say that, yeah, there's someone who they're financially sorted, most likely. And they're emotionally sorted as well. So this is a great person to be with if you're really secure as well and you're looking for, I mean, you know, don't worry if you're not, you know, we're all a work in progress, but if you're looking for someone who's really built on a firm foundation of security, then this is, well, this is a person to look out for a start, because this could be somebody who likes you and you end up liking back. But this is also what you can expect from this person. You know, they've got probably quite a lot of self-discipline. They might be someone who enjoys gardening, enjoys having pets, or enjoys like unusual hobbies, perhaps like hobbies to do with, associated with the countryside, or, you know, even if they live in a city, you know, but it could be something like, I don't know, archery, or, you know, here we see falconry. I've actually seen someone when I was living in the city with their I was living next to some really big parks, and this guy, he had a falcon. I was like, oh wow, people actually do that. And yeah, the falcon was happy to come visit him, and yeah, he was a nice guy. So maybe they have a pet falcon. But this is a good person to see. This isn't somebody who's going to be clingy or needy, but that doesn't mean that they're cold or anything. It just means that they're, you know, they're secure in themselves, and that's a great thing, isn't it? On the other hand, the other person who might be interested in you, or you might be interested in them, this one is someone who's a bit more at the nearer the start of their journey, which is not to say that the other person is at the end, but this is a card of potential. You know, here we see a figure, a man. He's on the castle ramparts, and he He's got the world in his hand. So, you know, he can do anything he wants, and he kind of knows that, but he's in the process of deciding. He's more in the inspiration phase. And, you know, maybe he's just going to stick with what he's doing. We see that this wand is bolted to the castle, but this wand is free. So there's this potential that this person's going places. Perhaps this person is a traveller or someone who would like to go travelling. Maybe they're interested in working abroad or doing some work abroad, or just moving to a different part of the country. But it doesn't have to be literally about moving. It can just be that this is the kind of person who has the potential to do whatever they want. So this one's someone quite inspiring, you know, somebody that you can really go along for the journey with, you know, as long as they've got space for you in their life. But presumably they do, and they're looking for a partner maybe to embark on whatever ideas it is that gets them really going. And they have a lot of personal power, but both of your potential suitors do. We see that they both have red hats. So red is the colour of power in the tarot. It is possible that maybe sometimes they're a little bit stubborn, both of them. When they've got their minds set to an idea, they really want to take it forward. But, you know, that's what gives them the power to really push forward with their ideas and achieve what they want to achieve. So that's very exciting. And for your challenges and your blessings in love, here we see the Star. So this is an interesting card to see as a challenge. It might be that you've been single for quite a long time and you're just starting to feel like, when is this ever going to end? And maybe you're kind of starting to lose hope a little bit. And again, if you're in a relationship, again, there's perhaps a sense of like losing hope or wondering if there's someone better out there for you, you know. And you know, if the relationship is dysfunctional, then potentially, yes, there is someone better that's coming in the next few months. But it's up to you whether to decide to make the break or not. If it's the case that you are single, as I mentioned, then, you know, this is not a difficult card to see. You just have to kind of keep the faith up that the right person for you is coming, or at least a good person. And yeah, as we can see, it's just been great omens, so there isn't too much to worry about there. I suppose the only thing about the Star is maybe being a little bit idealistic. So I mean, if you're single and you've got like a million things on your must-have list of qualities and you're disqualifying everyone because of that, then, you know, it might be time to reassess that. Of course, it's important to have like standards. You know, you want somebody who treats you well, and everybody has some characteristics that they do need from a person. But, you know, perhaps consider dropping one or two of the stars from your list of requirements. You know, some of the things aren't as important as they look. And I see now this little bird is hiding in the background, so it might be that, you know, this person's been trying to get your attention and you've just been so focused on, like, you know, the perfect soulmate that you've missed like the opportunity for somebody. You know, usually people kind of grow together. Again, it's not about picking any old person, but it's like sometimes we can actually put barriers, maybe even out of fear. You know, sometimes we can be worried to get what we want, so we just put barriers where there doesn't need to be any, and it kind of gets in the way of our own happiness. There's just some things to consider from the Star card. And in terms of your blessings, well, at the moment in love, you are having the ability to really think very clearly, very logically, and very rationally. So you may well find it quite easy to do what I've just said about the Star if you engage this kind of logical side of yourself. But then again, I suppose, you know, it is in your blessing side, but we can all take logic a bit too far when it comes to love. But the good thing is that you should be able to screen out any people that are really unsuitable. You know, those people who are like toxic or narcissists or whatever. You know, hopefully those people can be quite charismatic, so they can kind of trick you, but I think, yeah, the you know, hopefully your sense of logic and fairness as well is going to help you weed out those unwanted people. And if it is that you're in a relationship, I think you're in a good place to assess, like, what, you know, if things have been going wrong, then what's been going wrong, and see things from both sides, be quite fair, and see how can you move into this more blissful energy of the Two of Cups. So yeah, whichever situation you find yourself in, you know, it's not always a good thing to put the head over the heart, as this card kind of suggests, but it can be useful, and that's your strength at the moment. And, you know, getting carried away is nice, but it sometimes really doesn't work out for us. So you can really trust your logic to help you understand, like, who's the best partner. For instance, if you find yourself in this dilemma of which one to choose, well, you know, maybe you can call upon these rational powers if you're not too drawn away by kind of loving feelings. So I'm going to put that there. Okay, so I paused the camera because Canva, which I use to edit the video files, doesn't like big files, and then I, for the third time today, forgot I pressed on the camera but not return. Not return, what am I talking about? It's the camera. Not record. It's late, I don't know why, but I tend to read late at night. So what I was saying, you'll have to take my word for it that I did just draw these live, but as I was drawing these cards, I drew these two. This one just kind of fell out of the deck. So this is what's going to happen in the weeks to come. This is a clarifier card. This is what's going to happen in the months to come. This is a clarifier card. And this is a little bit of advice. And this one just kind of fell out of the deck. So what I was noting here was that there was a lot of yellow cards going on. So whether this is to do with your work or school or social life, could even be family life, I'm feeling that this is going to be a real time of wisdom. Yellow, this deep yellow, is a colour that means wisdom in the Rider-Waite deck, usually anyway. And we also see 1, 2, 3, 4 major arcana cards. Wow. Okay, one is in the advice position, but still. So when we see the major arcana, it's to do with transformation. It's to do with life lessons. It's to do with moving into new phases of your life, of yourself. It's very powerful cards here. So without even really going too deeply into it, this is a powerful time for you. So whether you've been just enjoying this kind of playfulness, you know, it's been really beneficial, or whether you've been like processing trauma, whatever it is that you've been doing this period, is obviously working out really well for you, because we see so much progression. There's definitely, you know, this theme of inner strength, you know, strength with vulnerability, and a kind of a real sense of progress. Eights in the tarot are about a sense of forward movement, and I'm drawn today to the eternity sign, which is also an 8 on her head, and yeah, I just really feel that that's relevant somehow. Maybe it's to do with the kind of something to do with recognizing the cyclical nature of life, realizing fundamental truths about life that are going to help you with the ups and downs, that are going to help you balance. Like, I see just good things happening for you, but as we know, life is full of up and downs, and the more we build our resilience, the better we are to weather the difficult periods, and to grow, whether things are going well or whether they're going more in a more difficult way. So yeah, I definitely feel a sense of resilience building up, And if you want to learn more about resilience, there's a book that I read a few years ago called Resilient Me. I can't think of the author right now, but I can link to it. I found that a really good book. I mean, it's not necessarily something you need right now unless you're feeling like perhaps in this period you're still needing some resilience. And it might be because we do see the moon as a clarifier card. So there is a sense that possibly you are emerging from a time where things have been more unsure, more uncertain. And if that resonates with you, I definitely recommend checking that book out. I got it on the Kindle, so it's pretty easy to read wherever you are. Anyway, moving on to what this actually means. Let's say that we're talking about a work perspective. I would say that you might find yourself getting a raise or a promotion, or if you're self-employed, that your business goes to the next level, or you get made a partner, or you have some kind of partnership, or your company goes public, or some kind of formalization of events. You know, if you're on a trial period, or perhaps you're doing an internship, any of those things, I think you get offered the job at this time, because this is really about, something becoming tangible, from an idea into something more real. And you can think of other ways that you might interpret that. And when we see the moon as a clarifying card, you know, here we do see that you've perhaps been coming from troubled emotions. Maybe you've been worried about whether this thing, you know, if it's a job, or, you know, if it's study, for instance, maybe you've got that dissertation done, or you've got the result and you did really well, or whatever it is that you've wanted to turn more formal. You know, fours are really a solid foundation. That's going to happen in the weeks to come, I would say. And I know this is a stage card, this is something I will refer to, which can mean that, you know, things are not always as they seem, and you can see that by that little line there. I'm not super drawn to think that it is, but you know, if there's something that you don't like about the way that this is, like if you feel that you're being pushed into something that kind of looks right but doesn't feel right, then remember that you actually have the strength to say no and look for something better. So I just feel the need to point that out here. And I'm just noticing that there's a kind of a bridge here that looks exactly like the bridge in this grieving card. Now, this was obviously to do with your love life, but there might just be some kind of connection there. Maybe, you know, your ex or your partner is related to, you know, certainly if it was family life, there might, although I don't think it would be love because this is different, but there might just be a connection there. I'll leave that for you to sort of think about in more detail, because it does depend on your circumstance. But ultimately, this card shows that you have been perhaps worrying about how things are going to turn out, and as long as it feels good within you, then things are going to go well in the next few weeks. And what I would say is that this is a time where you might have a really heightened sense of intuition. So you should be like paying attention to your dreams or any synchronicities, things like that, that you're feeling. And if you're having particularly vivid dreams, and maybe you want to make a dream journal, or maybe just a journal, like letting out some of those feelings. But do pay attention to your gut, to your intuition, and you know, if it's the case that there is some kind of healing and grieving to be done, even though this is a different area of your life, of course everything is connected, and especially as we saw the bridge here. So it could be that the moon card is also reflecting that process that you're going on here with the 5 of Cups. And if so, you know, finding ways to channel that energy. Even something that comes to mind by looking at this is like, you know, say you've got worries that you want to let go of, or old patterns that you don't want anymore. You could write them down and scatter them in some water. Write them down, tear them up, scatter them over a body of water. Just as a kind of a way, this is like when you see this, it's kind of like a formal journey. So I'd like to formalize this process of letting go that we see there, or some other kind of ceremony that makes you feel good. It's just one example. So assuming that all is as it seems, this is a really great card to see, and it's kind of like the culmination of things that you wanted to happen. If this is related to family members, it could also be that someone that you love is, in a non-romantic way, is getting engaged at this time, and like there's a celebration, something like that, and it's like a really good get together. So that's just another interpretation that might come about. And in the months to come, we see this theme really progressing because we get the Chariot. So, you know, this is kind of like the initial success, as I said, you know, the job offer, or the passing of year one in a degree, or the completion of a thesis, or, you know, the foundations of a project being put together and being launched. And this is saying that in the months to come, you know, you're going to see the full success. You know, there will have been things to go through, you know, there will be challenges, riddles, you know, problems to solve, whatever, but we see that you're really succeeding, you know, you're doing so well. This is just such a great card to see, like, especially with the surrounding cards, there's just so much progress, so much feeling of victory there. So it's really lovely. And it could be that you've been getting some interesting offers around this time that really align with what you want to do next. So, you know, if it's study related, perhaps you're being offered, you know, further educational options. And if it's work related, you know, perhaps you're being offered new ways to progress in your company, or, you know, if it's your own business, I think that if you have a new offering to give people, that's something that's going to have ended up being really successful. You're going to really start to see that happening. And in terms of your card of advice, we see the Justice card. So this can be literally about justice. And so it's like saying, don't take any shortcuts, like do things as they're supposed to be done, you know, do try to keep a sense of balance and try to be fair. And if there's legal or business proceedings, then it's definitely good to get them checked out by a lawyer, something like that, just to be sure, although I see only good things. But it's about playing things by the book here, and that's going to help you get to this successful place without any, you know, hang-ups of, you know, like, even if you have your own business, maybe just make sure you see an accountant if you haven't already. Just, you know, avoiding kind of boring mishaps and stuff like that, and just making sure that this is like really as smoothly successful as it seems to be. And there is another alternative, as I've said before on other readings, you know, the Justice card can be about adjustment. So it can be that, you know, as you're progressing in your work life or your school life or whatever, you know, you're on this kind of path of wisdom, of gaining resilience, of learning for other people, and it's about just keep checking that, like, that the way you're doing things is kind of the best way to get things done. I feel like you're going to be a very good sense of support for yourself, and I also get the feeling that there's probably going to be others around you who are going to be able to give you good advice at this time. So, you know, if you have a mentor, for example, then keep just checking in with them from time to time. And if you don't have a mentor, maybe get one. I've never had a mentor. I'd like a mentor. I feel like it would be good, but I don't know. I haven't managed to figure out how to get one, but I'm sure that you I feel like in this context, you probably, if this is relevant to you, you probably have people around you. And I think the key is, if you want to make them into a mentor, seek them out for advice. You know, make sure you let them know how much you respect their time and their achievements. You know, go to them with a clear idea of what you want to ask, so that you're not just, you know, kind of there like clueless. And I think they'll respect you for it, and that would be the way to form a kind of mentor relationship. And you know, if you're looking for a mentor, then maybe online, connecting with people in your industry or things like that. And if this all doesn't relate to business, and I feel that it most likely does relate to business or schoolwork, but if it's to do with your like social life, I think it suggests that if there's like different friends, maybe you form a kind of a group and you feel like a lot of success, you're really happy with the way that your social life is going, you know, particularly if you felt like it was a bit disparate before. Maybe some friends, you know, maybe you start introducing friends to other friends and they all get on really well, and you like forming this really nice friendship, and there's like new people coming along, new ideas, new possibilities to have fun, and perhaps new people to adjust to because of new people coming in your group. But definitely a sense of wisdom, of growth, yeah, all the good things really. So yeah, if business and school isn't relative to you, then that's the other alternative. Or should it be family, you can kind of extrapolate from that we're looking at success in just another way. So whatever it is, it's all good times for you in your life, both in love and other facets. So lucky you, but also not just luck, because you know, you've really been making the effort here to explore themes, to move away from things, to try new things. And if you haven't yet done any of that, you've still got time. So, you know, do take up any chances that are being offered to you and just try them on for size, because there's just so much potential for you at the moment, you know. And so, yeah, really, if you've ever seen that film or read the book, Yes Man, I think that's what it's called. The film has Jim Carrey, where he says yes to everything because he takes some self-help advice a little bit far. It's really funny if you haven't seen it. Yeah, you know, don't do what he did exactly, but, you know, try to just say yes to things that you wouldn't normally, unless your intuition tells you no, and then don't. Okay, so we're nearly done, but let's just draw a card of advice for you. Not advice, sorry, but rather like a card to kind of sum up the energy that you're going into. Okay, so we have fog, veiled. So often when we see this card, it's about things being hidden and becoming clear. And I think that is very much what we've seen. All these cards of yellow, of wisdom, it's like you've gone back, you've discovered your playful side, and, you know, so many things that were not clear before start to become clear. It's like many things in your life just really start to make sense. So yeah, it's just a really, again, look, even the yellow, see how it corresponds. It's just, you know, a time of unveiling the fog. So if you felt like, if you're feeling a bit like, well, you know, this is great, but I don't see how it's all going to happen, don't worry, because, you know, what is covered is going to become uncovered pretty soon, and it's all looking really lovely. So thanks very much for listening to this reading and watching it. Hope you've enjoyed listening to it as much as I have enjoyed reading it. And please do comment and let me know if you picked this group, and what did you think? Does it resonate for you? You know, check back in the future if you want and update us, tell us about this wonderful romance, and we want to know. I want to know. I will read all the comments, and if you like the video, please do subscribe and like, and if you don't want to miss any videos from me, then please hit the bell icon. I do intend to release approximately 2 videos a month, at least to start with. So that isn't that many. So if you want to make sure that you see it, then the bell icon is your friend, and my friend too. And yeah, finally, if you do want to get in touch with me on a more personal level, then you can reach me via my website as well. So sending you much love and light, and certainly don't need luck by the looks of things, but I really wish you all the best on this exciting journey that we see ahead. Take care. Welcome group 4. If you've chosen this pile, it's probably because you've been doing something to do with healing and possibly sharing it with other people, some kind of group context, or you've just had this really kind of outgoing energy right now. And one other thing to mention, if this is the path that you have picked, is that sometimes when we're trying to heal something, whilst there's definitely physiological reasons behind it, there can also be other reasons that, or linkages, let's say, that to an emotional side or many other sides. And one way to deal with this, as I did deal with my own endometriosis, is by taking a psychedelic plant, and I did it with a shaman in Peru. I took San Pedro. We ended up talking about my birth, which was traumatic, and by processing that, it was a whole load of grief that I was carrying that I didn't know about. But as you may have heard me say before, if you've watched my videos, the body keeps the score, which is the title of a famous book by Bessel van der Kolk and also Peter Levine. And it's really coming out into science now as to why things like yoga and ecstatic dance and other things like that, doesn't have to be shamanic plants such as what I took, which was San Pedro, or, you know, a lot of people take ayahuasca. And then of course there's magic mushrooms, LSD. Of course you need to think about the legality of where you are if you're going to do something like that, and also your safety. Make sure that you are okay to do that. Some people on certain medications need to watch out. But the point of me bringing this up is that sometimes by reconnecting with ourselves, we can actually, or sometimes the transcendent, something bigger than ourselves, such as nature, it can be a very profoundly healing experience. So that's another thing that this card can be talking about, you know, even reconnecting to others. You know, if you've felt resonant with the shaman but you didn't really feel resonant with the Queen of Wands as this kind of charismatic figure who is drawing other people to her or him, depending on, or they, depending on which gender you identify with, or non-binary, then yeah, that can be another thing to explore, reconnection. And there are so many ways to do that, but I have a particular interest in psychedelics, so that's why I bring it up. Please do your research before considering anything, and make sure you do everything in a safe environment with a shaman or a guide, or at the very least a trusted friend, something like that. But you know, I'm not recommending that. I'm just pointing out that it's something that's available to you as a very ancient healing wisdom method. This is one of many tools that shamans and healers and medicine people have been using for centuries. So, you know, it can be one thing to look into if you're on a larger healing journey. Now, what we're going to look into first is your love life, since that's what people usually just want to know about. And firstly, I'm going to ask, what is the likely outcome for you in the next few weeks in your love life? What's coming up in the next few weeks in your love life? Okay. Let's see what's coming up in the next few months. Okay. And we'll draw some I want to say clarificatory, but I don't think it's a word, and if it is, impossible to say. Clarificatory. Let's just say clarification. Some clarification cards, please. Okay, let's find out more about what the Seven of Cups has to tell us. Okay. That's all lined up, yeah, okay. Let's find out a little bit more about the energy of the Five of Swords. Okay, doesn't look all right. Let's try again. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a couple of advice cards. Okay, a lot of pages, a lot of experimentation, curiosity, learning. Okay, a lot of fives. Say there's been a lot of number repetition, so perhaps it's something in the air. It's a lot of lessons to be learned, stages to be moved through. Now we'll just ask about your challenges in love. Leave it as a surprise. And your blessings. Okay. And one more cup is the card of the overall advice, which is what the same card as came up in another pile. It's often the way that the same cards just keep coming up. It's really weird because, I mean, as you see, I shuffle the deck, I pick them randomly, I cut the deck, but certain messages just need to be got out, and that's often how it is. Something I've noticed when reading for clients, and the other ladies who've worked for me as well have often found that we'll just get clients who they're asking the same question. Obviously they don't know that they're all doing that, and it's often something that we've been dealing with as well. So it's definitely just another way in which there's an energetic resonance between these kind of things, and people, you know, unknowingly are drawn to the reader who's going through that thing and who has advice to give. And in a way, that's how I feel that these readings can work as well. Although, of course, you're not coming to me individually, you know, there's a sense that you're drawn to watch this video and to pick whichever pile, and to just, you know, why did you open YouTube today? And anyway, moving on. So what we can see is that in the next few weeks there are some choices to be made, and what that could be is that you may have you may actually have a choice of lovers, and if you're in a relationship, I think there's a choice to, I think there's a potential other lover choice. So, you know, here we see, this is the card of choices, and it's really about asking yourself what is important to you in love, and are you being fulfilled by the relationship you're in? And also remembering that not all fulfillment comes from your other half, your partner, by any means. You know, we have to do our best to seek fulfillment in a variety of ways, and your partner should be adding to that sense of fulfillment, but they shouldn't be the only source. So this is really a time to weigh up where you're getting satisfaction from, and are you getting it in your current relationship. And if you are not in a relationship, then it's a good time to ask yourself, what are you looking for in a relationship? What is important and what isn't important? Sometimes the things that we think really matter end up not mattering. I mean, they say that I saw a talk with a love sort of psychologist, an evolutionary psychologist, and he said that women have a really long list and men also have a pretty long list, but when it comes down to it, we tend to choose lovers in different ways than we would think. Anyway, I would just say, think about what's important for you, and if you have multiple people vying for your attention, then this is really going to help you decide. And the fact that we've got a 2 here, this could be that you have a choice of either, if you're in a relationship, sticking in your relationship or moving on to a new one. And it might be the person of the new one is known to you, or it might be someone that you haven't yet met, or someone that you're not currently aware of. And if you're single, it might be that there are 2 people interested in you, or that you have to choose, do you actually want to be in a relationship at this time? I mean, it's not always the best thing. If you're, if this is you and you've got the world in your hands, maybe there are other things you want to sort out first. I had wise advice when I moved to another country and I went to see a healer for a massage, but she ended up giving me a counseling session. It was really amazing. And I had some issues about love, and she said to me, yeah, but you're in a new country, or you're like finding where you want to live, learning the language, you working out your work, surely love is like the last thing on that list. And I was like, oh wow. And over that period, it kind of, with other things, it kind of cured me from a lifelong love addiction. I think it was weird. Every night I was dreaming about somebody that I'd dated, but they weren't quite right. And in my dream, my dream would just adjust it so that they would be the perfect person. Now, of course, I've warned against looking for the perfect person, but we also know when someone's just not right for us for whatever reason. Or sometimes it was people I hadn't met, but in the daytime I wasn't thinking about partners, and it was like my brain had to unconsciously process all of this. I mean, I was single for the first time in 10 years, so it was an adjustment period, but I really felt free actually at that time. I did eventually, not that long later, end up meeting someone, but it wasn't the first thing on my mind. So sometimes that's the thing to consider. Is love actually, a romance? Is that actually the first thing that should be on your mind right now? Or should you be focusing on, conquering the world, so to speak, putting your dreams and your wishes into manifesting them into reality? So that's the question that you need to be asking yourself. And again, the Page of Pentacles speaks to either interpretation. So this is really more of an advice card. So again, it's thinking about what do you really want from your future? You have the opportunity to plant the seeds to grow the future, or you don't even have to know the future with the page. I mean, you just have to think of all the possibilities that interest you. Sow the seeds of the potential futures that you'd like to see. Look at him. He's kind of looking into a crystal ball, almost like full of potential, and thinking, what am I going to manifest for myself? So, if it's that you've been going through this period of reassessing your values, then maybe the advice is just to kind of like not to form a kind of a definitive list of it has to be this or nothing, but possibilities, things that you would like, getting that in your mind, getting the idea, doesn't have to be just one person or one thing, but things you'd like to achieve. And maybe, as well as just thinking about what is your partner life like, your potential partner, for instance, think about what things you want to achieve in your life. And so somebody who would be along with doing that kind of thing, like if it's your dream to start a kind of a special project and you'd like to work on that with someone, or you'd like to travel, have a life of traveling, or you want to, I don't know, like start up a theatre class or whatever. Again, your partner doesn't have to be on the same boat as that. It does depend. If you want to go and become a nomad, then you probably do want to find someone like that. But just kind of get an idea of what's really important to you and manifest it. Or on the other hand, if it's the case that there are suitors about, there are potential partners to choose from, and that's another thing that this Seven of Cups can be saying in a love reading, then the advice might be to look for somebody, I'm going to pick him up again, look for somebody like the Page of Pentacles. And this might be somebody who's younger than you, but it might also just be someone who has a kind of a youth-like spirit. I would say that this person, well, it could go either way. On the one hand, they could be bookish. On the other hand, they could be the kind of person who likes to get out of doors. Definitely seeing the potential for like someone who works in animal welfare, or maybe a botanist coming to mind, or a zoologist. It could be both. I see somebody who really likes to study. I see somebody wearing glasses. Don't normally see those kind of details, so I don't know if I'm just being really stereotypical about maybe they wear glasses but they aren't bookish, they just need glasses and they like to work in the garden. But that's the two kind of things that are being suggested to me here. Definitely somebody who has a lot of dreams and potential, sees the potential in things and is kind of looking to the future, and I think isn't afraid to get involved with things and get their hands dirty if need be. I'm just looking at the card to see if anything else wants to jump out at me, because sometimes that's the way it goes. So, okay, I'm seeing this peak here, and I'm thinking it's someone that piques your interest. Like, I feel like it's someone that's maybe a bit different to you, and you're like, I'm curious. Like, you want to get inside that person's head, you feel like they've got some really interesting things to say. And I'm also noticing these little red and yellow flowers today, and you'll have to see like for yourself if you can really like read something into that. But I'm thinking about poppies, so it may not be poppy related, but just felt like it was worth throwing those things out there, because sometimes it's valuable. So now that's in the weeks to come. Do see a bit of troubled times coming in the months to come, but don't worry, because there's always a way to transform things. Fives, so we have a 5 here and we have a 5 here. Well, that's advice. So fives, they do speak about can be conflicts, can be inner conflicts or clashes with people, but this is something we can avoid as well. So I feel like if you have started a new relationship, and again we've got the page here, so maybe this is the other side of the person that you are already with or that you chose to be with. And again, we get the sense of them being either younger than you or with this childlike kind of spirit, this kind of enthusiasm. And maybe in this case, it's kind of getting a little bit hard to pin them down. and, or, you know, like perhaps it's just really a matter of understanding, and that's starting to cause clashes. And if it's a long-term relationship, then maybe, you know, this person that you're with is slipped out of your sort of spiritual core values, you know, and that's kind of what's causing the clash. Maybe they're kind of a little bit immature for you now, you know. That can be a meaning for Page of Wands. And again, you have to decide whether this relationship is something that you want to pursue. But if it is, then instead of looking for conflict or where you guys don't agree, instead you're being asked to kind of really appreciate each other's differences and make an effort to step into each other's shoes. Like, you'll see that this guy is wearing odd shoes, and all the different clothing that you see here, it's about people who really have different way of approaching things to you. And it's interesting that these cards are both wands, because wands are really kind of like the inspiration, the spark. In a sense, they can be what makes people tick, and it's something that can be quite hard to define what it is. You know, sometimes the wands are the unspoken, you know, whereas the swords are the realms of thoughts and words and communication. Wands kind of come before that. So it could be just a problem of language, you know, like also if you're dealing with someone who's speaking a different language to you, you know, their native tongue isn't the same as yours, that could also be an issue here. And again, I feel like, I don't know why, but somehow this red feather coming out of the cap of the Page of Wands is significant. It just feels like there's something you just don't get about this person. Maybe they are also not getting you as well. Like, and you know, it's just a real opportunity to do your best to be really empathetic with each other. Like, just try to imagine that you're the other person. Try to step into their clothes, step into their shoes. You know, just, you could even literally try that, to invoke a really old school song by In Vogue. For those of you who are 90s kids, if I could wear your clothes, I'd pretend I was you and lose control, is really a love song that I found very romantic when I was a teenager. But yeah, I mean, you could actually literally do that as an episode, you know, an exercise is what I wanted to say, which might sound crazy, but in like anthropology, there was a famous anthropologist, I think it was Marcel Mauss, I don't know, I can't remember. It's too long ago I did my degree. But he actually realised that there was, while studying different cultures, he noticed that, you know, it's not just that we think differently, but the way we hold our bodies is different. So he was comparing, you know, say the French to the English or whatever, and there was like a real difference between the way people carried themselves. And having done some theatre games classes as well, again, the theatre thing is coming up, and I'm not an actor or anything like that. I don't know why theatre keeps coming up, but yeah, there's something really to be said for moving like somebody else, you know what I mean? So maybe for some of you that's just a ridiculous suggestion, but for those of you who really want to push the boundaries, it's something you can try out. Just really see what it feels like to be that other person, and try and kind of, yeah, step into their shoes, see if you can embody them, and see if that helps to get a closer understanding. With fives, we have a choice, you know. Yes, there is some difficulties to be faced, but we don't know what the story is here. You know, maybe these people have just had a fight, or maybe this guy is like a peacekeeper and he said, like, there's no need to fight, you know. Maybe people were just dropping their swords for no reason, and this guy's just clearing them up like the nice guy that he is. This card has already come up today, and I can't help but look at his face. It does look a little bit creepy. But to be honest, depending on which version of the Rider-Waite deck you have, the faces do actually look different. So can't read so much about it. But the point is, you have a choice anyway. Do you fight? Do you try to resolve the conflict? Do you kind of spend more time getting to know what's going on? And as I pointed out, we've been talking a lot today about stage cards, which this one is. This little line in the background that you see on quite a lot of the cards means that things are not necessarily what they seem, hence the stage. Oh, more stuff to do with acting. What the hell is going on? Are you guys actors watching this? Want to be actors? So the people here, they can be play acting, you know. Who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe you're the kind of couple that, you know, kind of get a little charge on, I mean, I wouldn't say like conflict is, you know, getting a buzz off conflict is probably not a healthy thing. But at the same time, some couples function really well by dealing with their problems, by, you know, discussing them, getting it out in the open, even, you know, having a little argument to clear the air. I mean, do be careful if you're going to have an argument, like try not to say things that you're going to regret later, because people do find it hard to forget things that have been said in anger and don't mean it. But you'll know, you know, some people, they do say that they just couldn't have a relationship without a bit of conflict to kind of clear the air. But ultimately, you know, the advice is, if you want to turn it into something more productive, try to see things from each other's point of view. And you know, these people with the wands, they're really, it looks to me like they're trying to form a pentacle. You know, they look a bit out of sorts, but they're trying to form a nice secure pentacle from which they can make something real and solid in the world and get out of the slightly troubled energy of the fives. So I did then draw a card of challenges and blessings, and so this does speak to the fact that there could well be arguments on the way, but again, don't worry too much about this. I mean, hopefully you feel like I've given you some good ways that you can deal with this kind of thing. But yeah, there is a kind of the challenge here is really not to rush in and just argue and like, oh, I've got to get my point in, you know, without thinking. The challenge is to be a bit more thoughtful, take a little bit more time if you need it, you know, just go for a walk before you before you say what's on your mind and clear your head, or, you know, don't just rush in. That's kind of the advice here. On the other hand, the blessings card is really nice to see. We've got the 8 of Wands, and this shows that you, and if you are in a relationship, your partner, you both have a strong desire to push forward, to explore new things. Maybe if travel is something that you're both interested in, and we did see the 2 of Wands, which can be about travel, then it could be that you're both aligned on this, and, you know, travel could be a really good thing for you. You're like this kind of inquisitiveness, this, like, there's a lot of kind of wands here, and it's this spark of inspiration, this wanting to get info from different places and want to keep things moving, you know. So you have this choice. Do you keep things moving by, you know, creating conflict, or indulging in conflict, or, you know, succumbing to conflict, or do you kind of push forward, you know, with like joint inspiration, joint dreams, joint plans, or even just the will to take a relationship to the next level, you know, and get your understanding of your inspiration, what really drives you, what moves you, what pushes you forward. This is, you know, your blessing. And if you are single, then I would say that the blessing of the moment is that this is a time for things to move forward. So if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been, you know, thinking like, when am I going to feel ready for a relationship, or when is a relationship going to come, now's a good time to be getting out there and looking for one. I can't say for certain that somebody's going to come in, although, as we've seen, there's definitely the potential for it. But I think by going out there and exploring things in the world that you're interested in, I think you have a really good chance of meeting somebody, or at least meeting people that, you know, in the future you might want to have a relationship with, if not immediately, but there's definitely the possibility for that. And also perhaps for getting to know yourself better as well, like we said here, if you kind of can't really understand the inspiration of other people and they can't understand you, well, if you don't know your own, what's really driving you, what's sparking you, then it's going to be really hard for someone else to. So this kind of fits well with this 7 here, where we see you reevaluating what matters to you in love, but also in terms of what's fulfilling to you on a soul level. And so this is a chance to kind of push forward with those things that give you a sense of joy and love and fulfillment, and potentially this is something you can form a partnership over, these things that are so important that connect you. And as a card of advice, we get the 6 of Cups. So this has already come up as advice today, and what generally this means as advice is either doing things that kind of remind you of a comforting time in your past. So that might be a trip home to see your family, or it might be going to a place where you just feel really good, like a park that you have good memories from, or even reading a book or creating a piece of art to kind of celebrate a good time in your life, something like that, really evoking the feelings of the past, the good feelings. So that's a slightly different interpretation than I gave to the people previously, because that's what's coming to mind here. And another thing that's coming to mind here that didn't earlier is that it might also be a time to consider somebody from your past as a potential partner if you're looking for a partner. So when I see this card in a love reading, now this is advice, so it's not predictive as such, but still it could be that the partner for you, if you've been looking, is somebody that you've known a long time, perhaps a childhood friend, or just someone you've known for a good length of time, or who can also be someone maybe you haven't known them for that long, but you get that feeling of there's just people that you meet and like you click so quickly, it feels like you have known each other forever. And the other thing is it can be about getting back with an ex, but please don't do that if that ex was not a good person for you. If it was just that maybe you were at the wrong points in your life, you both had to grow and develop, and now you have, then that's a good thing to consider. But don't re-enter into toxic relationships, please. So that's kind of what I would say. But just for completeness, I will mention what I said to the other group, at least some of it, which is that you may want to do things to help other people, because we do see this gnome-like person handing a bunch of flowers to another gnome person. I don't know, maybe this is some kind of gnome village situation, but the thing is, it's a kind of about giving giving your love out to other people, and maybe getting involved in some kind of voluntary project or something that really makes you feel good and fulfilled. And at the same time, maybe it's a place where you'll not only just feel good about yourself and be like perhaps in line, you decide to reassess your values and so on. And it might also be a good way to meet like a really nice person to be with, or if you're already in a relationship, then perhaps it's just a good way to bring in more love into your life, more fulfillment, more joy that doesn't rely on other people. So that is the love reading. I hope that has been helpful. Let's put these cards here. And now for the next part of your reading, we are going to ask about your work and or your social point of view. Okay, so in your work or interpersonal spheres, what's going to be going on in the weeks to come? Okay, and in the months to come, okay, and let's draw some clarifier cards. See, I can say that, clarifier and clarifying, just not clarificatory. Oh my god, I said it. Wow. Okay, so let's find out a little bit more about the Queen of Swords. Oh, blimey. Okay. Intense, but don't worry. And let's find out a bit more about the Seven of Pentacles in the months to come for you. Oh, exciting. Okay. And I'm going to pop that there. Ask for a bit of advice overall. Okay, 10 of Pentacles. So let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so I see that in either your work or study life, which is what I'm mainly going to attribute to this, these cards, but you may also want to think about your social life or your, relations with other people outside of your partner. It could even be family life. So you can interpret this in the way that makes sense. In the weeks to come, I see you cutting out a negative situation. It could be there's somebody who you feel has betrayed you in some way, or it could just be a kind of a toxic person. And this shows you being no nonsense. And when I first saw this card, I thought adjudicator. So it could be that you are also asked to get involved in something. So maybe in work, you're asked to get involved in some kind of situation where people say to you, well, please can you weigh this up and figure out what happened, and you have to work it out and see who was the party who had something done to them that shouldn't have been done. And the way to do this is really to use your logic, your rational mind. And, the Queen of Swords is a very powerful figure, so I think that you know how you're going to do this. This is something that you're going to be quite sure about. And other things that it can relate to, it's all along that theme, but it might be that you decide to quit your job if you think that they've been treating you unfairly, or it might be, as I said, that you decide to just cut someone out of your life. And that really seems to be the thing to do. This is a 10. It's like the end of a cycle, completion, and you don't need this person anymore, or this thing. It could also be a thing, but there is a sense of a little bit of injustice here. Like, this isn't just ending something because it's like the time to do something new, though that may well also be. There's been some unfairness here, and the Queen has come to correct that, and nobody's going to stand in her way. So it may not even be something that it's you doing it. Like, I feel like it probably is you that's the agent, but whatever happens, I think we see an end to something or someone that's been unfair, or it's no good for you. So that's really good to see, and that's to be expected in the coming weeks. And then in the months to come, we see that whatever you've been putting effort into, whatever you've been putting your energy into, particularly in the realm of money or study or something to do with things that are very tangible, building up a business, or potentially, it can be about your own security. And, we've seen here that you're kind of on this healing journey. And, as I mentioned, there's many components to healing. And so perhaps what you're trying to heal is this sense of security within yourself, or that's one of the things that you end up healing while you're on this journey. So whatever it is that you've been putting effort into, it's really starting to bear fruit in the coming months. And there's definitely a connotation of it being something spiritual in nature or some kind of hidden knowledge, although it might just be something hidden. So it might be, if you've been, say, working with a counselor or therapist, or just on some kind of personal journey, as I said, with your sense of self-security, it might just be that you really start to uncover your shadow side, or all these things in your subconscious that were, perhaps stopping you from progressing. And by kind of uncovering them, by harnessing them, I would say even, this really goes to your benefit. So whatever's really important to you at the moment, you are going to see like the fruits of your labor. So this is really good to see. And particularly, as I said, if it is kind of involving some kind of esoteric knowledge, maybe it's ancient healing wisdom, maybe, it's some other kind of practice. Maybe you're becoming a tarot reader. The High Priestess is really the card of tarot readers, among other things. Then this is saying that you're really going to be starting to feel like you learning these sort of hidden pearls of wisdom that aren't available to everybody. And a friend of mine is into the Kabbalah, which I hope I'm allowed to say because it's a secret thing, but they sure remain nameless. And it was that friend that pointed out to me that, this card, the Ten of Pentacles, which is your overall advice, is actually the structure of the Tree of Life, which is what the Kabbalah is based on. And there are various references to the Kabbalah as well as other spiritual traditions within the tarot. So if that's something you're interested in pursuing, then this could be the path for you. But it can be whatever works for you, really. Definitely bringing things from your unconscious or that are hidden. These pomegranate seeds relate to the journey of Persephone from the ancient Greek myths, and she went into the underworld, and I think she was stolen there by the god of the underworld, and I think that she was told not to eat anything, but for whatever reason she decided it was a good idea to munch on some pomegranate seeds. And then she had to stay there, and at least for half the year. And her mother was not super impressed by that. But the point of this allegory is that it's really about progressing from being a woman, a child, to being a woman, and moving into the next level. When we see these two gates, obviously this can apply to you if you identify with a different gender. It's not about that, but it's about just taking the next step into something, going deeper. So if you've been on this healing path, maybe say you've been receiving Reiki, for example, and you decide that now you want to become a Reiki healer. So that's just one example of how it's about progressing. or if you've just been working on yourself, it's, you know, you're starting to come into contact with this unconscious side of yourself, and you're really stepping into a new age, potentially, of a new era of your own spiritual development. So yeah, whatever you've been trying to do, it's really working. And if this is more down to earth, if this is more about work and study, then it's really that you're progressing to a new level. And as well as, you know, doing the practical, you know, you've been doing the practical stuff here and, you know, getting your hands dirty, getting the job done, but now you're starting to see kind of the rhythm and flow of things. You know, if it's not about healing, as I say, if it's about work, you know, there's a sense of the things that tangibly need to be done, and then a kind of a sense of experience, of wisdom, of knowledge that you only gain after time, you know, and also once you've cut away the things or the people that don't work for you. So yeah, I think hopefully that covers most of the ways that you might be looking at that. Again, if we were thinking about your social life, your interpersonal life in that way, I think it's really a sign about you realizing, you know, who is important to have around you in your life. You know, who are the people who are going to get you to this greater sense of security. You know, we have the 10 of Pentacles, so this is somebody who's either very secure, or, you know, has a very good home life, or, you know, a sense of abundance. So yeah, it's really about recognizing what is good to have around you, both tangibly and kind of, you know, from a spiritual perspective as well, or, you know, from a well-being perspective, let's say. So this is really good to see. Lots of progress being made, and definitely like a sense of initiation into the next level. You know, you've grown your grapes, they've fruited. Well, you know, what's next? That's up to you, but you now have this like secondary, deeper level of wisdom that's going to come in so useful for the next level of your development. And on the whole then, as overall advice, I would say that this is in general, you know, a time to really reflect on what things make you feel secure. Where would you like to be in the future, you know, in terms of your home life, in terms of your job, in terms of how you feel, you know, how would you like that to look? Maybe think about that, envision it, and just check that, you know, the relationships in your life, the direction you're taking is what supports that. You know, we've already seen that you're going to be cutting out what doesn't matter and focusing on what does. So it's just kind of keeping that in mind. And yet at the same time, since I've been talking a lot about stage cards today, I'll point out that this is yet another sneaky stage card. And so, you know, the other meaning of this can be, you know, don't forget to mix it up a little bit. You know, you don't want everything to be so secure that there's no room for challenge or growth. Again, that may or may not apply to you, but it's just questions that you can ask yourself when you're on this journey. You know, what makes you feel secure but doesn't make you feel trapped? Not all of the time is about growth. You know, sometimes we just need to maintain, to relax, or to enjoy. And that's important to think about that as well, you know. But yeah, at the same time, we don't want to get to a point where we're so stifled that nothing ever changes. So it's down to you really to see what makes sense in terms of advice there. And finally, I'm going to draw an oracle card for you, just to give us an idea a little bit more about the energy that you are moving into. You know, I feel that if you're on this shaman, ancient healing wisdom, Queen of Wands vibe, that's something that's probably going to continue, because unless you don't want it to, but it's often quite a long path. And again, that might be, you know, what we see here in the Seven of Pentacles, is that you are really progressing and getting that ancient healing wisdom, you know. Maybe you starting out to become a shaman, as I mentioned at the start, or a naturopath, or functional medicine doctor, or a herbalist, or so many different things. Acupressure. There's finding a lot of scientific advice now about why acupressure works. I mean, we've, you know, the Chinese medicine has known for thousands of years that it works, but, you know, it's sort of nice when Western science catches up, and then we have two reasons. And yeah, acupuncture could be quite relevant here. That's a very alternative interpretation for the Ten of Swords, but I like it. It is possible. So if you're into acupuncture, you're thinking about it, yeah. Wow, I love that as an interpretation. It's very subversive, but yeah, could be. Okay, so my point was really, just because we're drawing a new energy card doesn't mean that the old one can't persist. Okay, so what is the next energy phase you're moving into? Okay, wow. DNA and karma. So I spoke at length about this card in a previous video, and I don't know who's watching what. I don't really want to bore you, so I'll just try to talk quickly about it. But what it can be is wanting to explore your family history, wanting to perhaps do a family tree, contacting people of different generations. Doesn't necessarily have to be in your family, but, you know, learning the wisdom from elders, for instance. So that's one thing that this card can mean. And the other thing it can mean, which relates very well to ancient healing wisdom, and I'm just going to, as I say, try to summarize it quite quickly, but there's a field called epigenetics, and that shows how we are not kind of totally limited by our DNA. You know, we can't change our DNA, but we can actually affect how it expresses. We have various genes inside us, and we may have genes for certain illnesses or whatever, but the question is, do they get switched on or not? And epigenetics, as an emerging field of science, shows that we have the power through our, you know, we can't change everything about our DNA. Some of it is just fixed, but through our diet, through our thinking patterns, through various different things, we have the actual power to alter some of what our DNA is specified to do, which is pretty amazing. And if you want more info on that, you can just search epigenetics. There are various interesting people talking about that. And, you know, in terms of karma, you know, there's studies which are suggesting that maybe it's intergenerational as well, that, you know, trauma, for instance, experienced by, say, your grandparents can affect you now. Scientifically, they haven't proved that yet. It's more of a working hypothesis, but it has been seen that Holocaust survivors, or people whose grandparents were, or parents were exposed to, say, like extreme food scarcity or poverty, things like that, that can be passed down. What hasn't been proved is it a genetic thing, or is it just kind of, you know, like more like environmental because of what's been shared between the family. But something I said before, and I'll say it again, my good friend pointed out to me that you were in your grandmother's body. That sounds so weird when I put it like that, but when your mother was in the womb of your grandmother, her eggs, which you are from, one of them, are formed while in the womb. So I think that's quite a logical reason to suggest that definitely on the matrilineal line, that it really does make sense that there can be trauma that's been passed down. And so it goes back to what I said at the start of the reading, which refers to things like psychedelics. It refers to all manner of somatic healing, which is kind of healing that involves movement. That a lot of this can help to clear trauma that we don't even know that our body is carrying. And again, highly recommend Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, if you want to learn a little bit more about trauma stored in the body. So that's something you can consider. And if you're going more on the extra esoteric side of things, you'll find that there are people who work with this kind of thing from a kind of spiritual level, and they will cleanse you, they'll take you on visualizations and so on. Does it work? I don't know, but a lot of people seem to believe it does. So that's something you can definitely potentially explore. So yeah, I think that's really, it's interesting that I kind of said that you probably weren't just about to leave this shaman energy, and then this DNA card comes up. So I feel there's this theme of healing, and we see that whether it's your work life or your social life or whatever, there's this kind of focus on cutting out that which is toxic, and planting the seeds and really seeing the fruits of a kind of a more healthy, stable thing for yourself. And trying to get to this kind of nice, secure 10 of Pentacles. So yeah, it seems really interesting that we got a healing card there, and of course the High Priestess, the mistress of esoteric practices. So yeah, I would say it's not about karma in terms of like, oh, you did something bad in a past life, or that isn't really what karma means, even though people use it that way informally. But if none of that really appeals to you, then I would say it's about reconnecting with your family story in some way. Can be that you draw a family tree. You might want to take one of those DNA tests to discover family that you're related to. You might want to consider the security aspects of that as well, because it's a bit weird to give someone your DNA in a way, but on the other hand, we give away a lot of information, don't we? And there have been stories of people discovering all kinds of things, but not always pleasant surprises, I must say. Some pleasant, some unpleasant. Anyway, I guess I'm getting a little bit off the point there. But anyway, this is definitely an interesting time for you. And whilst you might have a little bit of struggles in love, there's a lot of progress that can be made, and I think it's going to be a really eye-opening potential for you to see somebody who's quite different to you from their perspective, and from them to see you, and if you're on this kind of healing journey, then this is all kind of going to work in well with it. And ultimately you are progressing to your advice anyway is to focus on this progression of where you want to be, something stable, something good. And it certainly seems that there's some, your hard work is going to pay off, and there's kind of exciting hidden knowledge for you to uncover with whatever you do. But yeah, if you do take a DNA test, be prepared. It is possible that you may discover some stories that could be what, I don't think that's really what the High Priestess is referring to, but you might want to, just out of interest, discover all the people who found out that their mother is not their mother, or so on. But that isn't what I'm predicting here in this reading. It's just relative to DNA testing, which is something you might think about. Okay, so I really hope that this reading has been helpful, and thanks so much for watching it all the way through. And if you liked it, please do comment below and tell me what pile you picked and what resonated for you. And feel free to check in later and update us, or I would love to know how it all goes. And if you like this video, of course, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you would like to be sure that you don't miss my videos. My plan is to release about 2 a month at least to start with, so it's not that many, and make sure that you don't miss out. And if you do want to contact me in person, you can always get in touch with me via my website, but also I will read every comment that is left, and I'll do my best to reply as well. So sending you much love, much blessings. It's an exciting healing journey that you've got here, and I wish you all the very best of luck. Okay, take care.